Welcome back to Haunted Whispers. Grab a blanket, maybe turn the lights down a bit, and get ready for creepy little tales we found buried in the shadows. Story 1. The Man Behind the Red Curtains. The house across the street was supposed to be abandoned. No lights. No cars. No life. So why did I see someone moving behind the red curtain? Every single night. Amy was 26 when she moved into her small rental house on Maple Drive. Quiet street, big trees, friendly dogs. The kind of place where you can leave your door unlocked, though she didn't. It was a nice setup, a remote job, peaceful evenings, and the perfect bay window to curl up next to with her Kindle and tea. She almost never closed her curtains. And no one else on the street did either. There was no reason to. Across the street sat a colonial-style house. A little rundown. Faded blue paint, unkempt lawn. But no one lived there. That's what the neighbors said. Vacant for over a year. One night, Amy was brushing her teeth when something made her pause. She looked across the street and noticed something different. A red curtain, vivid and thick, was hanging in the second-story window of the abandoned house. It hadn't been there before. It moved slightly, as if someone had just brushed past it. She stared at it, but nothing else happened. The next morning, the curtain was gone. She brought it up to her neighbor Claire during a walk. Claire just blinked. That place is still empty. Trust me, no one's touched it. Amy shrugged it off. Maybe she'd imagined it. 2 nights later, at around 2:40 a.m., Amy woke up to a sound. 3 soft knocks. Front porch. She looked through the peephole. No one. Porch light flickered slightly. But nothing. The next morning, something caught her eye. Wedged in the crack of her front door was a folded strip of red fabric. She stared at it for a full minute before picking it up. She called the police. They came, logged the incident, and left with a, "Let us know if anything else happens." That night, for the first time, Amy closed her curtains. At 2:43 a.m., she woke again. This time, she heard a click, like a door latch. She stepped out of her bedroom, phone in hand, flashlight trembling slightly as she aimed it down the hallway. The living room was normal. The couch, the lamp, the empty tea mug. Except the curtains were open. She was sure she'd closed them. Her phone buzzed. AirDrop request. Do you like the view? From an unknown device. She declined it. AirDrop only works if the other person is less than 30 feet away. Amy turned slowly and looked out the window. In the second-story window across the street, the curtain was now half open. A silhouette stood behind it, holding a phone. He waved. She ran into her bedroom, slammed the door shut, and called 911. Police arrived in under 10 minutes. Amy refused to leave her room until she heard their voices inside. They entered the house across the street. The front door was locked from the inside, but they forced it open. Dust everywhere. Abandoned. Except, on the second floor, one room was very dirty. There was a mattress on the floor. Empty food containers and rubbish were scattered everywhere. Even worse, they found photos. Printed pictures. Amy reading. Amy eating. Amy sleeping. All taken from that room. Whoever had been there had been watching her for weeks. There were no fingerprints. No signs of forced entry. He'd come in and out through a crawl space in the foundation. He was never found. Amy moved out a week later. But 3 months later, someone else moved into her old place. A young couple. And 2 weeks after that, they reported something strange. The house across the street had a curtain again. Same window. Same color. You may think you're alone in your neighborhood. But someone out there might know your routine better than you do. They might even be watching you right now. Like this story? Like and subscribe. And maybe, close your curtains tonight. Story 2. I found out I wasn't living alone. Every night at 3:14 a.m., my dog stared at the same corner and growled. I thought it was nothing, until I checked under the floorboards. Kevin had just bought his first home in a quiet New Jersey suburb. He was 33, worked in real estate, and had been renting for years. Finally, he found a place that felt like his. 2 bedrooms, a nice yard for his dog Moose, and a low monthly mortgage. The house was old, built in the 70s, but had been recently renovated. Except for one thing, the crawl space. It wasn't on the blueprint. The home inspector just shrugged. Probably old HVAC access, he said. Kevin didn't think twice. Until Moose started barking every night at the same wall in the living room. Then, around 3 a.m. each night, Moose would stand, stare at the vent on the floor, and bark like someone was standing on the other side. Kevin thought it was rats. Maybe old pipes. Maybe raccoons under the house. So one night, he slid his phone under the couch, camera facing the vent, and hit record. The next morning, he reviewed the footage. At 3:12 a.m., Moose started barking. At 3:14 a.m., there was a metallic click, like a latch opening. And at 3:17 a.m., a whisper. One word. Downstairs. Kevin froze. He called the police. They searched the crawl space. Found nothing. Just dirt, insulation, and some old ductwork. But Kevin knew something wasn't right. So he installed a motion-detecting camera inside the crawl space. That night, he stayed up. At 3:14 a.m., he got an alert. Motion detected. He opened the feed and nearly dropped his phone. A man, wearing a ski mask barefoot, holding a long kitchen knife, crawled silently through the space. He moved toward the crawlspace hatch, opened it, and disappeared from the camera's view. This insane and creepy man was happy for being caught, even said hello to the camera. Kevin sat frozen. He could hear a creaking in the hallway. He grabbed his bat, locked his bedroom door, and called 911. Police arrived in 5 minutes. They found nothing. But when they checked the crawl space again, they discovered something new. Behind a loose insulation panel, there was a dugout cavity in the dirt, large enough for a person to lie down. Inside were a sleeping mat, water bottles, food wrappers, an old phone, and a small cardboard box full of photographs. They were all of Kevin, photos from inside his home. One from the bathroom, one from the kitchen, one from the bedroom. Someone had been living under his house, watching him, waiting. They never found the man. The phone was locked. Forensics recovered partial prints, but no matches. Kevin moved out 2 days later. The house was sold a month later to a woman with 2 kids. 3 months in, she called animal control. Her dog had been barking at the same floor vent every night. At 3:14 a.m. And one morning, she found something taped to the vent. A sticky note, in shaky, childlike handwriting. It read, "Still here." Story 3. The light stayed on. The storm knocked out power on the entire block, except for one house. And no one remembers anyone living there. July 3rd, 2020. Just before midnight, a brutal summer storm rolled through the small town of Red Hollow, Indiana, tearing down trees, power lines, everything. Within minutes, the entire neighborhood was dark. All of it, except for one house. House 2421 Birch Lane. Every other window on the street had gone black. But 2421 glowed like a lighthouse, every light on, bright and cold. And the strange thing was, no one could remember seeing anyone move in. Erin, 29, was house-sitting for her parents that week. Their place was next door. She'd grown up in the neighborhood and swore that house had been empty for years. As she stood on the front porch, holding a flashlight, she stared at it. Something felt off. Not just the lights, but the silence around it. She texted her dad. "Do you know who lives at 2421 now?" He replied almost instantly. "Still empty far as I know. Power should be out there too." But it wasn't. Around 12:10 a.m., she looked again. One of the lights had gone out. Then another. Then another. Not all at once, but sequentially, like someone was moving through the house, turning them off one by one. Erin couldn't look away. And then, The front door slowly creaked open. No one stepped out. Instead, the porch light blinked. Twice. Then paused. Then again. It was a pattern. Erin pulled out her phone and Googled it. Morse code. HLPME. Her heart was pounding. She called 911 immediately. There's something wrong at 2421 Birch. I think someone's trapped inside. Dispatch said they'd send a unit. ETA, 15 minutes. Erin stayed on the porch, watching, and for a moment nothing moved, until the upstairs bedroom light flashed once, then shut off. The entire house went dark, except for the porch light, still blinking. Desperate. Help me. The first officer arrived at 12:28 a.m. Erin pointed to the house. He knocked. No answer. Then tried the door. It was unlocked. Erin watched as 2 officers entered. Their flashlights flicked through the windows like ghosts moving through fog. Then silence, until one officer came back out, looking pale. We need backup. Now. They found a man in the basement. Alive. Barely. Tied to a chair. Blindfolded. Starved. Emaciated. With duct tape across his mouth and plastic zip ties cutting deep into his wrists and ankles. He'd been down there for years. His name was Daniel Cross. Reported missing in 2014. The basement had been soundproofed. Wires ran through the walls to a hidden generator system. It powered only that one house, independently. Someone had kept the lights on. Literally. To avoid suspicion. But no one in the neighborhood ever saw them. Officers found notebooks upstairs. Stacks of them. Hundreds of pages. Written in Daniel's hand. Some entries rambled. Some were just the word please written over and over. But one stuck out. There are 2 of them. But only one speaks. The other just watches. And writes. Writes everything. They never found the captors. There were no fingerprints. No DNA. Whoever had kept Daniel locked away had planned everything meticulously. The generator, the ventilation, the food. There was one fork in the entire house. One bowl. And nothing else. The next morning, Erin walked past the house as police began to board it up. But she stopped cold. Because in the upper right corner of the dusty, second-floor window, someone had drawn something. A single handprint. Pressed from the inside. Not all haunted houses are empty. Some of them are alive. And some trap you in silence until someone notices the lights. If this story got under your skin, hit like, subscribe. And remember, if the whole block goes dark, and one house doesn't, don't go near it.